Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we're getting a look at the Kizer S.L.T. Alright guys, this is the Kizer S.L.T. Slimline Utility, and it is a production version of John Gray's custom Slimline Utility Tactical. John Gray calls his the Slut. So, this one is pretty much the Slut too. For Kizer, they took the U out and just called it a Slimline Tactical. But, we've got that out of the way now, so now we can look at the knife. We've got a titanium handle material. It's got kind of a hammered or ground in look. Gives you some texture to hold on to, and it's rather nice. There's nothing sharp here. It's all nice and soft, and I rather like the look of it. The knife has a huge pivot with a big, looks like a Phillips head screw, but I haven't used a Phillips on it. Whenever I messed with it, I used a coin. I think it was a quarter. It may have been a nickel, but may even have been a penny. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But the coin worked fine, but you might be able to get a huge Phillips screwdriver in here, and you might be able to use a large flat blade screwdriver. And we roll it around the back. We have our one screw for the end of the knife, and it goes through a very nice spool type pillar, and looks real nice. They've shined that up. And we have our flipper tab. Flipper tab has no jimping on it. That comes into play whenever we get to ergonomics. It's actually a good thing that it doesn't have jimping. And whenever we roll it around the other side, we've got the shiny side of that big old pivot and this big old dongle looking pocket clip. And now it is big and it's kind of funny shaped, but it is the same clip that John Gray puts on his customs. And whenever we get to the pocket, we'll see how it works. And for now, we'll do some size comparison and get our standards out here. We have our Rat Model 1 and our Buck 110. And this is one time I can say that all three of these knives are about the same size and fairly close to the same weight. The Slut is 5.5 ounces, a little over that. Our Buck, of course, weighs a little more, and our Rat is just a little bit less, so it kind of splits in the middle. And, of course, we'll throw our Delica up here just for fun, and the Delica is, of course, quite a bit smaller. Our dimensions on this are 4.9 inches closed length with a handle thickness of 0.51 and a closed height of 1.44, so it is a large knife, but it's not ridiculously large. It's got some constraint as far as the dimensions go. They've got it a little thinner than normal, than you would normally get with a big, heavy custom knife, and it's a little shorter. And it's not as long as you would think it would be for a 3.6 inch blade, so they've done well there. And let's get a look at that blade while we're talking about it. And what we've got is a flat ground blade, fairly high. We're talking 3/4 of the way up or so. We got a little bit of flat right here and some swedges there at the very top. Now, whenever I sharpened this, I think we went 16 or 17 degrees on the primary bevel. Watch the video if you want to know for sure. I either have a sharpening video already up or it will be up soon on this knife. And then we put a 20-degree micro bevel on it because this is a big old knife and you may want to do some chopping with it. And we want that edge stabilized real well. Now, the stock edge from Kizer wasn't bad, but of course, whenever we can make it look like this and get the angles we want, it's always better. And from here, we'll go to our pause and read card, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, let's throw this guy down in the pocket of our Levi's. Not quite like that. Let's get the pocket clip. There we go. And now here's kind of what I was talking about. I love this pocket clip. It could be deeper. We got quite a bit of knife sticking out here, and we've got kind of an odd shape that may get knocked into things as you're walking around in those tight spaces. But the big thing here is we've got enough pocket clip, and it's got enough spring to it that it should hold the knife in the pocket and keep you from losing the knife, from running into something and having the knife lifted out. And that is a beautiful thing, and it doesn't look quite as odd whenever you've got the knife in your pocket. So overall, well done on the pocket clip. It could have been deeper, and it is tip up right hand only, which is kind of a bummer, but overall, very nice job on the pocket clip. Now, moving on to the mechanical bits, we are running on Kizer's caged ball bearings, and as you can see, they work good. And this is a knife you can guillotine yourself with, so be careful with it. That flipper tab does very little to protect you unless you get your thumb right up there at the top before you close it. If you do it where you feel it's natural, that knife can go right around and get you. So do be aware of that, but it is a fall-free design, and a shake close plenty easy, and dang near closes itself. Well centered right there, and we do have a steel insert for our lock bar, and we got, what is that? Looks like about 30% lockup. And this knife does have just a little bit of lock rock in it. It's not enough to make me nervous, but if you really stress the knife, you can feel just a little bit. So, take that into account. If you decide to purchase one of these, you may want to check that real quick. Make sure you've got your pivot set right and all that before you check it. But set your pivot, check it, and see if you have any, because there's no play any other direction in this knife. It's really nice and tight. Just that smidge of lock rock if you really stress the knife. But overall, it's good. It's got a good detent. It's not overdone. And that's one reason you can get away with not having any jimping back here. The detent is good, but with that heavy blade, it doesn't take a lot to get it over the detent. You can light switch it fairly easily. You can push button it. And even with a fairly lethargic light switch, it flips itself right out. So very good job on the pivot and on the detent and the lock bar, with the exception of that little bit of lock rock. And ergonomically is a place that this thing is just pretty darn beautiful. John Gray has had them go with a very simple design. No fancy finger choils, no excess anything, just a nice swoop right here and a nice curve right there. About the only thing that they did do, and it's a nice thing, is this curve extends over the back, dips down a little bit, and then they have a bit of a thumb ramp on the blade. And that's one of the things I really like. If you've ever handled a 0770 from Zero Tolerance, it's a bit exaggerated there, but that's one of the places that I encountered that and really loved it. And it's carried over here to the S.L.T, and it is just great. It lets your thumb drop down just a little bit and get in a very comfortable position whenever you've got the knife like this. It's just a great thing. And this is a place where, what I was talking about, not having jimping back here, this is great. Because whenever you wrap your hand around the knife, your index finger is right up against that flipper tab, and if it had a bunch of nasty jimping on it, and you carried this knife and used it regularly, you'd have a big old mess there and eventually a big callus on the side of your index finger. Since it's smooth and it works great, you won't end up with that. Everything will be fine. You get this thing in your other grips, it's a wee bit long for your reverse grip with my medium-large hands, but it's okay. Your draw cut grip, just fine there. It's a simple handle design that's very, very effective. As far as anything weird or odd, besides that massive pivot, it's just a well put together knife. Kizer knows what they're doing. Their S35 VN and their blade is a beautiful thing. They do a great job with the S35 VN. If you watch some of Cedric's videos on edge retention, where he does kind of semi-controlled testing, this is not one of the S35 VNs that has had problems. Kizer does a good job with theirs. It's good steel, well hardened, holds an edge well. Some other companies have some issues with S35 VN, and that's why I've said in the past that I'm not a huge fan of S35 VN, because there's so much variance in what you get with S35. But here with Kizer, it's good stuff. Anyhow, guys, so what is my final thought on the Kizer S.L.T? Well, you know, I really need either a Kizer S.L.T or a John Gray sled around the house. I've had this sled around the house for the past couple of weeks. Susie's handled it, decided it was all right. She thinks it works well, and she hasn't been upset. And now that's a key thing if you're going to have a sled around the house. You don't want your wife upset about it. And for the most part, I think most women are going to let you keep this one around. You go trying to get those other kinds, well, you know, that's on you. I don't want to be any part of that. Anyhow, guys, I really appreciate you hanging out and getting a look at the Kizer S.L.T with me. It is a really neat knife, and I really need to get one for myself. This one belongs to Nick, and I really appreciate him sending it along so that we could get a look at it. And you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.